Frank Francone, and I'm honored to be here and be in Dan's presence and get a chance to meet you folks. The question for me is probably not nearly as exciting. I was only 14 years old on the day of Pearl Harbor. One of the frustrations I have is that we all remember it as Pearl Harbor, and yet, basically it was the same day that the Japanese attacked Bataan, and very few people really recognize that or appreciate that, and I think a big part of the legacy of this organization and all of you is to bring that forth and let people realize the contribution that was made by the Filipinos and the Philippine Army and the Philippine Scouts that were on Bataan and delayed the invasion of the Japanese. I was very excited. I had a very exciting time. I was in a 1936 Terraplane driving across Denver with my folks, and that's when we heard about Pearl Harbor. And like I said, I was only 14 years old. So as far as that particular question is concerned, I really don't have nearly anything as exciting to tell as Dan is about it, but I'm still proud to be here.
Tell us about your road to the Scouts. How did you become a Scout later on?
I went in the Army in 1945, and then I ended up at OCS, graduated in 46, and then in October of 46, I was shipped off to the Philippines by way of Japan, and then we ended up at a place I'd never heard of before, which over there they call it Camp O'Donnell. I know it seems like nowadays people call it O'Donnell, which is what I would have called it myself, but over there it was called Camp O'Donnell. And but I didn't appreciate what was going on there. I mean, I didn't realize that it had been the place where the death march had ended. I didn't realize that so many people had been imprisoned there at this camp. I didn't realize how many had died there. I didn't realize the sacrifices that were made, how the Japanese, we called them Japs in those days, how they were treated, how they treated the American prisoners and the Filipinos, how they separated the Filipinos from the Americans, how the conditions in the Philippine camp was so much worse than the American side, even though the American side was terrible in its own way. I was only there about 4 months altogether. I had some interesting times there. I spent some time out in the Crow Valley, which some of you may be aware of. That's where many of the Negritos were located. I had a chance to see them. I was on a field team where the 12th Division was sending troops out to go through field maneuvers. So we were training Philippine Scouts. We were younger men. Many of the officers were Filipinos. I've lost contact with all of them. From my organization, from the group of people that I went overseas with and graduated, there were probably 10 from our unit that became Philippine Scouts. And last year at San Antonio, I tried to contact several of them, see if I could motivate them into coming to San Antonio and attend the reunion there. The only person that I was able to contact was Paul Fleming. Many of you remember him. He wasn't able to come this year, but he sent his best, and I don't know. I don't have. I'm more honored to be here, and it's important. I think that we learn what happened and what's going on, what went on there from people like Dan. But I also think it's important that we appreciate the fact that what's going on is because you are carrying on the tradition of your ancestors, of those that were there, and it's not something that's disappearing, it's something that's being carried on because you have a tie, a bond to those people, and I thank you each for carrying that on, and I appreciate what little I can receive from you and through that.